Greetings, Star Citizens, and welcome to Flight Deck. This is a weekly podcast about Star Citizen and other gamer culture topics. I'm your host, Link Static MDK, and with me, as always, is Paper Thin.
Yo,
Today's topics we're going to be covering stretch goals, new upcoming ships, upcoming changes to the game, movie news, and other game news. So let's start off with the stretch goals. We recently had a couple of new stretch goals hit, which is kind of becoming a almost bi-weekly or weekly occurrence. I mean, we just had the 60 million stretch goal where we got the Aegis Bulldog, which is the deep space fighter that was released, and I think today, in fact, we got the 61 million stretch goal, which has the Espera Prowler. And can you talk a little bit more about that, Paper Thin?
yeah. So the 60 million goal was unlocked last week, um, which gave us the Aegis Bulldog, like you said, a twin-engine deep space fighter. Supposed to be a really reliable fighter, can take a beating, should be pretty fast, I think it sounds like, and has an advanced sensor suite. So kind of like a fighter that you would expect like small planetary forces to employ to defend their territory.
When they have to cover
Um,
a lot more territory than just like say you would with a Hornet or a Avenger.
right. When your planetary government can't afford, a small carrier or something like that, or an Idris, then you got to have these bulldog fighters to get the job done. And I'm sure players will find them useful for, long range, recon missions and that kind of thing. So
Is it Idris or Idris? I always get like, how do you
I don't know.
pronounce it?
I don't know. I always assume like Idris because of the word iris. You know what I mean? Like your eye
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
but that's
I don't.
that's that's guessing. I'd
I
have to actually pay attention when Chris Roberts talks about it and see what he says.
All right. Well, we'll figure that out eventually, and still say it wrong, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
All right. And what about the Aspera Prowler? What about that one?
So the Aspera Prowler is going to be similar to the Caterpillar. It sounds like where it's going to be a boarding craft, like an assault craft, and it's going to be of somewhat Taveran, which is a new race design. It sounds like it's going to incorporate like Taveran technology with UEE technology to make like a kind of like a hybrid ship. So we don't really know what that means too much right now. We don't really know what that's going to look like or what kind of unique quirks Taveran technology is going to have. That being said, I really want a boarding ship because I missed out on the Caterpillars because I already spent too much money on this game when they were on sale. So I might be throwing down for this one. We'll see.
Yeah, I love how every time a new ship is announced, and we've said before, I'm not going to spend any more money on this game. I've already spent plenty. And then we're like, oh, well, but I have a good reason this time,
Yeah,
again, for this one. Wow.
but but it's my Christmas present to myself.
Oh, that's great. Well, and
Uh,
then there's also the Genesis class Starliner. I think they announced this time too. So it's not just the boarding ship, but you also have the Starliner that came out as well.
yeah, exactly. We got the Prowler at 61 million. We'll get the Genesis Starliner at 62 million. So
Which
that sounds like it's going to be kind of just almost like the uh, Boeing 747 of space.
it's almost getting to the point where like they can't keep up with the stretch goals because they just keep getting so much money thrown at them at this point, which has got to be a good feeling. Every time
Oh
you go
yeah.
into work, you're like, oh, job security. you know, it's just got to feel good. Well, and
Well, they're getting huge. I mean, what did Chris Roberts say? They're over 380 employees now.
I wonder what it
It's
will be
massive.
when it's finally come out and they've got a like. Here's the thing: like, if they're going for a constant development, like he's talking, unlike most jobs, those jobs won't necessarily disappear then, because if they're constantly updating and adding stuff to the game, you know, you're going to constantly have development going in. So it's not like the game's released and everybody gets fired. It's no, we've got now the next thing that we're working on constantly.
Right, exactly, and it's really encouraging. I think if I was working there, I'd be nice to have that job security if I wanted it.
Yeah. Well, and you would just sit there nerding out. I don't think you could work there because you would just be saying there, pretty ships. Ah, cool. Ah, cool.
What are you working on? Can
Pa-
I watch you?
Paper thin. You get your work done. Um. Well, I have a good reason. I was player testing for about 12 hours. This one thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No, it would be tough to get stuff done there because I'd just be so curious as to what everyone else is doing.
Oh yeah, all the time. Well, maybe that would be your job to be the guy who like just gets the status update from everybody, and reports it.
Project manager,
Yeah,
basically.
there you
Yeah,
go. That
I'd be
yeah.
okay with that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
There's a title for that guy. There you go. Well, you mentioned the Tavarin. I know when they had the recent 10 for the writers, one of the things the writers were really looking forward to getting out there into the world was the Tavarin. Like they wanted to have the backstory of that race out there for people to enjoy, criticize,
No,
experience.
they talked about that in the 10 for the writers, right?
Uh, did I say chairman? I meant writers.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. You did. Yeah, no, no, no. You didn't mention either way.
Oh, okay.
I just couldn't remember because I actually didn't see the 10 for the writers. I missed out on that. Or, well, it's not that I can't go back and watch it. I just haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if maybe you could
Oh,
elaborate a little.
yeah, I totally nerded out and watched the whole thing. So the Tavarin race, it was just one of those questions where they asked him, "What are you most excited to see as a writer coming out, you know, that you've written about that maybe isn't well known yet?" The Tavarin was one of them. Another thing was Spider, which I don't know if you've seen that much on. Star Citizen Wiki actually has a pretty decent article about Spider.
Huh.
It kind of talks about the backstory, and it started out as like this little small scale navy facility, and now over the centuries it's just had tons of failed colonies and ships that have merged into it, making like a massive sprawling complex of derelicts junk.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it should be a pretty cool area to check out when it's all said and done. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how much is actually explorable, if it's going to be like a small section where you land in and you walk around, and then over time they'll release more and more of it.
Probably. I mean, that sounds like that's going to be their general, way to approach, places where you land, like on planets. There's only going to be a small amount that you can initially go to,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that for that station too.
Well, and another thing they mentioned in the 10 for the writers was they kind of wanted to have a player-driven history on top of their lore history that's non-player driven. So, like, if you have a bunch of players blockading a planet, that would become part of the lore. Or let's say you kills off some major pirate group, that would become part of the lore. That type of thing. You, as a bounty hunter, you arrest somebody who's fairly affluent, you know, so that type of thing would affect the lore, and then at the same point, it would also merge in like the story, and then they'd have to work their way in with that too.
Yeah.
And there'll be several lore characters that are interactable in the game. So like Drake, I think was one of the ones mentioned, and all these other you've heard about their companies or they've mentioned them in passing, but they'll actually be in the game for you to interact with. And then I think
Sure.
the other main thing they talked about, and they didn't really give into specifics, was game time being condensed. This was something we'd speculated about, that it wasn't going to be like real world.
Right.
Um, so they haven't said what the conversion's going to be or anything like that, but they were talking, oh yeah, that's something we're definitely going to do.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, that's really the only way they can deal with that, in my opinion. Going back real quick to the player-driven history, I'm really curious as to how they're going to staff for that. You know what I mean? Like, how are they going to? Are they going to have like people that just work 24/7? And obviously in different shifts, but they have like three shifts of people who work 8 hours a day that are kind of like not really GMs. They're just there to just
Mhm.
kind of observe and
Well,
then write about it.
so do they even need that though? Given the community itself would probably well document all of this, and then it would become like a meme of Star Citizen people. You know
But
what I
how does
mean?
it get? How does it get in game then? I guess my
I,
question.
I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Is how they plan to work it out. I don't remember if they talked about it or if they just had some ideas. We'll see. You
Yeah,
know.
I'm curious to see how they approach that. It should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I definitely sounds like it'll add a level of fidelity to the game that they're always talking about too. If you can actually have real world consequences for your actions.
Right. Right.
So, another thing they were mentioning recently was the Vandal fleet and other ships that are coming out. One
Yeah.
of the Ones in the works they mentioned was the blade for the Vandal and the cleaver for the Vandal. I haven't seen any concept pictures for the cleaver, but I have seen the blade concept art, and that looked to be roughly around, 50 meters, I think it was, or something like that. It was definitely bigger than the scythe.
Okay.
For the other one though, I mean, I just haven't heard anything or seen anything about the cleaver that's been very specific.
Yeah, I couldn't really find much either. They just seem like they are announcing names and they haven't given too many other details at this point.
Well, it's interesting that they're going with like the bladed weapon theme for all the Vandal stuff, you know. So I wonder if like the art and all that's going to be very similar. Like you see with the scythe, all those pointed and sharp edges to it. So I wonder if all the other ships are going to have that similar kind of layout to them.
Yeah, it sounds like that's their kind of their theme is going to be edged weapons. So it should be, and there's tons of names you could pick from
The
because there's a
rapier, the yeah,
right, there's a plethora of
yeah,
edged weapons.
the claymore, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to see more Vandal ships. I want to know what I'm going to be going up against.
Well, I hope they incorporate them in Vandal Swarm too, so you're not just fighting
Yeah,
scythes all the time, or you
right.
got Vandal size and a blade mixture, especially when they add in the multi-crewed ships. If you got some bigger Vandal ships in there to fight too, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool to see.
And the Avengers finally had its variants or concept locked, so that'll be
Okay.
interesting to see what those look like. You know, every time they come out with all the variant types, it's interesting to see what they're imagining them to be. Like when we had the
Right.
Cutlass come out, we had the hospital ship, but then we also had the police ship. It was multiple roles.
Yeah, and I really like that. I mean, it gives people flexibility. It gives people options to do different things in the game that they want to do, and I'm glad they continue down that path. And I know the Avengers one that a lot of people really want to see in Arena Commander. A lot of people own Avengers and are getting impatient that they're not in Arena Commander yet. But
You know, I don't. It looks cool, but I don't see the appeal. Like,
yeah,
it's a cool looking ship, but I already got my Hornet. Why would I want an Avenger when you could have a Hornet if you're going to be doing dogfighting?
yeah, I don't. I'll be curious to see where the trade-offs on the Avenger are. Like, what parts of it are going to be better or worse than a Hornet, for example.
Yeah.
So,
We'll see. I mean, I might get a lot of Avenger hate comments for saying that, but that's how I feel. Um, Also, we've got the Starfarer and the Caterpillar are both in white boxing, which is pretty cool because that means a lot of the bigger ships are starting to get down the pipeline, so we'll start seeing them come out.
yeah, pretty excited about both of those. The Starfarer is a really massive transport ship, which I think I would like to do eventually someday is have a Starfarer, and when I'm just kind of bored and just want to relax,
And you want to own a
I'll
gas
just
station in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it'll be pretty fun. And the caterpillar, I'm very, very excited for because boarding action is something that I am, is going to be one of the top things that I'm looking to do in this game. So
Well, I think if you have a large organization where you're running, a couple dozen ships, it definitely makes sense to have at least one of each. Because you want that fuel tanker for, supplying your ships with fuel when you're going on a long mission, or you want the Caterpillar if you're going to be assaulting someplace or anything like
yeah, I
that.
mean, Starfarers are probably going to be essential to running a large organization. So you're going to need, multiple competent Starfarer pilots to handle that role.
Either that or be constantly running back and forth to get fuel, which I don't see people wanting to do. You know,
No, it's just not going to be possible.
well, it'd be possible, it'd just be really, really lame and
Well,
boring.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'd be impossible to maintain a steady attack. You're gonna need the resupplies.
Yeah, unless your
So
organization is so huge, you can have waves switch out.
true, true,
But that would still not be fun, in my opinion. I'd want to be there as much as possible and not have to go back to get fuel.
exactly. It would definitely take away from the enjoyment if you're constantly in battle for 5 minutes. All right, I got to go all the way back and refuel. And that takes me 15 minutes. Nobody's gonna want to do that. Ain't no one got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah. Well, and I think they mentioned even the Starfare was going to be used in the intro for Squadron 42. Like that was an in
Yeah,
passing thing that Chris Roberts had mentioned. He's like, "Oh yeah, and by the way," so I wonder if that's going to be like one of the early missions. Is, "Oh hey, you're a pilot on your Bengal carrier, and all of a sudden the Starfare that was supplying your fleet with fuel is getting attacked. You better go save it." You know?
yeah. I'm sure there'll be something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also the minor patch fix that's coming up. That's to fix ongoing issues. They weren't really specific as to what ongoing issues, but it could be controls. It could be anything at this point. There's so much that needs tweaking left and right since they just dropped all those control remapping on us.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that, I'm sure if I spent the time to go and look through the bug forums, I'd have a pretty good idea of what they're going to fix. But quite frankly, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, you're not
And
getting paid for it, so there's
right,
really little reason for you
yeah, I'm
to.
not getting paid to fix these bugs, so
Yeah,
I really just, unless I see them myself with care enough to report them, I don't go there.
yeah. When you already have a full-time job doing that, it makes it really difficult to do that for your free time too.
Yeah, that's true for you. Yeah, and I mean, I do similar stuff too. So
Yeah. Well, and then one of the really cool things they actually showed was the in and around the verse episode 19. Towards the end, they had an art sneak peek, which showed
yeah,
all these various models of guns that are coming out. So like in the FPS trailer, they showed maybe three or four types of guns, and that was it, right? But
yep.
I saw at least 10 distinct models of guns, so it'll be interesting to see what each of those does, and like fire rates and ranges and clips and all of that stuff that goes into each individual gun will be pretty cool to find out.
And they're cool looking guns. I really like the take. Like some of them kind of have like a circular clip where you can see the bullets in it,
Like
and
a
others have the
a drum
standard.
mag or
Yeah, kind
okay.
of like a drum mag. It looked more like a smaller drum mag that would just kind of like fall out the side of the gun, and then you'd pop a
Hmm,
circular mag back into the side of it. It looked like instead of the standard from the bottom reload. So
that's weird
some cool, yeah, just some quirks to the guns that just kind of make them look cool.
and futuristic, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they gotta it would be really stupid of them to have the gun that looks ugly that nobody wants to use. I mean, that would just be ridiculous.
Well, in my opinion, if it's ugly but effective, I'll use it. I don't give two craps.
That's true, but if it's cool looking
And
and
effective.
effective, it's even
Then I'll
better.
be
Yeah,
then I'll be
exactly.
drooling over it.
Yeah,
Like, take
exactly.
my money.
It's like BRs from Halo 2. You didn't really use anything else.
Right. And they still looked cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and one of the things that people were crying about, with tears of sadness, was Wingman officially stepping down from his position at Cloud Imperium Games. So,
Well, and what's even more ridiculous about it is people were using it to like stir up FAW controversy. Like, oh, Sandy Gardner forced him out, or whatever people were saying. It was just
really?
it was oh yeah, yeah. There like Ben Lesnick had to come out and like put this massive like beat down on people and be like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Like
Like,
Sandy's like awesome. She eyes like because they were saying that Sandy was the one who forced Wingman out so she could do Around the Verse, and
what?
yeah, and Ben Lesnick was like, no, Around the Verse was my idea, and I specifically wanted Sandy to be on it. So
Wow.
like, yeah, so I mean, the thing is like Wingman, like, yeah, it was cool. He did Wingman's Hangar, and I really liked it, and I wish they could have kept doing it, but he's a programmer first and foremost, and
Yeah.
so obviously and he's one of the lead programmers, so obviously he needed to dedicate more of his time to that.
Hmm.
And at this point, most of the Star Citizen executive staff looks like they're going to be based out of LA, and he just doesn't want to move his family there.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, I hate it when people do false controversies like that over nothing, because it's like,
right.
it, it- uh, wow. All I really read was, oh, Wingman steps down. I didn't bother reading any other comments, but it's
Yeah,
sad.
that's because you don't thrive on drama like a sad number of people do.
Well, that reminds me of what our one organization member and our friend said, Dr. Insaniac, when, the FPS was released. He's like, "What? No joystick controls? Rawr!" I laughed so hard.
You know, there's gonna be somebody who's like, I can't use my joystick at FPS. At least one frickin' moron is gonna come out in the forums, and everybody's just gonna collectively facepalm. The facepalm's gonna be so loud, you're gonna be able to hear it in space. It's just,
It was,
it's just absurd.
yeah, it's great though. Oh man. Well, and then the other thing that I was like super nerdy about that they just talked about too was the Redeemer upgrade. Um,
Right.
which sounds quite frankly super awesome. And if they want to keep upgrading my favorite ship that I own with lifetime insurance, I will not stop them.
Well, it sounds like part of it was just actually putting on the weapon hard points that are supposed to be there in the hangar that were missing from the first go round.
Hmm.
Because
Like,
I noticed that too when I was looking at the specs for the Redeemer when you and I were looking at the ship. Um, that it was missing a couple of the hard points. Like there was supposed to be missile hard points on there and some
right?
other things that just weren't. And now they're on there.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're in the hangar module or not,
I
but
haven't looked yet. I'll
I haven't either.
I'll have to check. Like,
Yeah,
I'll just
but they
sit there
will
and
be.
do a second video of me staring at my ship and going, "It's pretty" for 40 minutes.
And we'll stream it.
And we'll scream it. It's pretty. We know. It's pretty. We know. Well, and then they're
Yeah,
giving the M50. There's the free test flight going around, and I'd actually tried it out when they did that. All the ships are free for a week to try out
right.
deal, and I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. Like it's too fast, and it doesn't fit how I feel it should play. Yeah, and that's just me. You know.
Yeah, it's it's such a it's such a racing heavy dependent, not heavy, dependent ship that it just feels odd in Arena Commander. And there's a lot of people who don't like it in Arena Commander because they feel like it's overpowered. Like because it's so fast, it's hard to hit. Um, so I don't know how I feel about that.
Well,
I haven't paid a lot of attention to what people's general feeling on it is since the new patch landed. If that changed anything with how hard it is to hit, versus not. So I think it might have been balanced a little bit because it's easier to hit stuff in general with the new patch.
so
Um,
the thing about the M50 though is it doesn't have any missiles, right? It's just got the normal laser cannons or whatever for
correct.
weapons right now. So
Correct.
maybe it's really good against fighters, but once you get a multi-crew ship in, I doubt it's going to do enough damage, and I doubt it won't be hit by turrets. You know what I mean?
I think, yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think when multi cruise ships come out, the M50 is going to be absolutely worthless against them. So yeah, it can hang with the fighters because it's fast and maneuverable enough. But if it gets hit at all, it just falls apart. So
Yeah. Well, plus I always like it when there's a ship that's really tough to fight because I have much more joy when I finally take one out.
yeah, I mean the challenge is a lot of the fun in games like this. I mean, I'm always a little perplexed when people get super offended because a ship's good versus the rest of the ships. Well, there's going to be ships that are better at some things than others, so learn how to beat them as best you can.
Well,
If you're flying around in a 300i or whatever against a Hornet,
it,
and
it's like
deal with it.
X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. If you remember that, like you fly a
Right,
TIE Fighter versus even a Y-Wing, the Y-Wing has the huge advantage. But,
right.
when you take out a Y-Wing and a TIE Fighter, you feel totally badass. You know, you're
Yeah.
like, I just killed that guy. I am the greatest pilot in the universe, and then you get shot by like an A-wing or something and die and get pissed.
Well, exactly. And the other thing people have to keep in mind is this is Arena Commander. This isn't the persistent universe. Like ships that are designed to be pure dogfighters are going to have an advantage, just period. And you just got to live with it. And like you said, take joy in those moments when you do overcome the odds. And let's say you're in your Aurora and you kill a Hornet, then you should feel damn good about yourself instead of complaining on the forums.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about that is too, I mean, a Hornet's a short range fighter, and Aurora I think is more easily upgradable into something that goes system to system, right?
Hmm.
So
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, and
what you're
the
supposed
Aurora
to
can
do is
hold
run away.
targets. Right.
Yeah.
Right, and the Aurora can hold a ton of not a ton, but a fair amount of cargo.
I thought it was about the
And
same as the Hornet, actually.
no. Or I think pretty sure the Aurora can hold more because
I,
it holds like a. I think they were saying it's going to hold like a different type of cargo,
hmm
so it's going to hold more versus what the Hornet. I don't know. It's up in the air.
I think what we're trying to say is friends don't let friends fly Auroras.
Yeah, I only
PSA,
have
the
one
more
fake out.
you know, do, all that to
Yeah,
that statement.
the only reason I have one is because I got it for free. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go. Well, and the other cool thing that they were talking about, I don't know if you saw this, but the jobs board, how they wanted that to be more of like an organization-driven um, job mission system.
yeah,
So like the NPC organizations like the UEE could have missions to say, hey, we need somebody to deliver fuel to this station, or we need, you know, 8 tons of metal delivered here, you know, and you pick up the job and take it. Whereas you could have another organization that's like, hey, we hear the UEE is trying to have 8 tons of metal delivered. We want you to take that from the transport, you know. So,
yeah. I think these are really cool ideas, and the way that they're approaching the job boards is pretty cool because it sounds like about 90% of the jobs are going to be computer driven, so the AIs are going to give you jobs, but then
yeah.
10% of it is going to be player driven, so players can put up jobs on those boards, whether they be legal or illegal jobs or whatever. So yeah, it'd be pretty cool if, like, I see, like you were saying, on the board, I see that there someone's requesting a certain amount of raw materials to their be brought to their planet. Well, I can send out a job to have somebody heist that material, and then I pay them a cut of it if they are successful or whatever. So,
Yeah, that would be cool. I
and
would
then
definitely be interested in doing both sides of it, being the protector or the delivery guy, and also the pirate.
yeah, it's fun to play both sides of it. I'm not going to be strictly UE friendly or pirate friendly or whatever. I'm gonna try and play every angle I can.
Yeah, well, I think I told you this before. My idea is to be the Jason Statham of the Star Citizen universe and just transport criminals under the radar, system to system, you know?
Which is pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
pretty fun.
I think you'd make quite a decent amount of money. It's like, oh, hey, you need your, you know, squad transported. Well, we'll throw a couple of your ships in my reclaimer and I'll just, mosey on past.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool how those mechanics play out, and it's a really awesome thing that you can do. I think that you could just be like a transporter.
hmm Well,
So
and
I'm really looking forward to that.
well, another thing, I'd forgotten to mention this actually. We talked about the player-driven lore. We've got the player-driven jobs. There's also from the latest 10 for the chairman, Rob Chris Roberts was talking about in fiction achievements. So like, I wonder if like part of those rewards you can do then is, hey, we're the UEE. We're going to give you a blah 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 pass to this planet that most people can't get to, but because you did this mission for us, you now have a pass. Or, we're a human player driven organization, and we're going to give you this nice, cool logo jacket that we have. That type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I really like that idea as a way of doing achievements because, quite frankly, like Steam achievements kind of don't matter to me.
They
Some
really
people
don't.
get really worked up about it. Our friend Doctor Insaniac had to have every Steam achievement for Spelunky, for example. And like me, I beat the game and now I'm like, I'm good. I
I'm
can play
good.
it sometimes,
I've
and
beat it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really care too much. So, and I much prefer the way that they're talking about doing it. It's like, all right, I go to a certain planet. Oh, I get a little piece of memorabilia in my ship, like a little trinket. Or, like you were saying, I complete a mission for a certain faction. They give me some kind of swag or whatever. And
I
I
would
think that's really cool.
I would love to have like whatever the collection's gonna be planned. Like if it's snow globes or bobbleheads or whatever, just line one of my ships, like the dash of one of my ships with bobbleheads.
Yes,
So when I'm flying around, I see like a bobblehead from, Terra just bobbing up and down as I pull G's.
right, exactly. It's like you get the little Hawaiian girl from Terra, and,
There you go. Yeah.
you know,
Oh
that'll
man.
be really cool stuff. I really like that. That's the way they're going with it. I think it's smart.
Well, and then they were also talking about the HUDs having HUDs are going to be driven by equipment, which I thought was pretty cool. So you'll have a different heads-up display depending on what FPS gear you're using, depending on what um, equipment you've loaded onto your ship. So, like, if you've got a better targeting computer, you're going to have a better targeting display. You know, that type of thing.
Right, and I think what'll be pretty cool about this is a lot of it's going to come down to preference, probably more than one system being better than the other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there are certain systems that, give you certain advantages, but at the same time, I think a lot of it's going to come down to just what feels the best for you, like which HUD just feels right.
You know, I wonder if they eventually do like give us other playable races, if you're going to have a different view screen then, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe this race only sees in ultraviolet or whatever, you know, and then your heads up display changes with that too.
Oh man, that would be interesting, um, and possibly annoying. I don't know.
It's like, ah,
A
it's
game
blue, it's too blue.
yeah, a game I've talked about in the past, the Aliens versus Predator games for computer, the originals. You could switch depending on which race you were. Like if you were Aliens, you had like a heat vision kind of mode, and
Hmm.
then regular vision. But if you were Predators, you had like three different modes, and one of them was ultraviolet. Oh my god, so annoying to play in.
I
Useful,
bleed,
but
I bleed.
yeah, yes, exactly. It's like God. I didn't want to stare at the sun on my screen for an hour, but here we go. I need it so I could see these freaking aliens.
Yeah, well,
I imagine they wouldn't quite do that. I don't know.
we'll,
Maybe. We'll
we'll
see.
see. Yeah, I pros and cons. Every time you do anything like that, it's a pro and a con. Well, and then with that heads-up display, they're also talking about the FPS gameplay that goes into into it. So like you've got they don't want the Twitch gaming like you see in your your Call of Duties or your Counter Strikes where you just run for forever, turn 360 no scope a guy through a sliver and a crack in a wall. You know,
Right. Right.
it's
And a part of me is a little sad about that, just
because you liked it. You're like,
because I
I'm a
liked it.
god.
Yeah. Right. I know. I mean, I've had so many moments in Counter Strike and Halo where I've just done stuff where I'm like, oh my god, like everybody needs to see this.
Bow down to my awesomeness.
Yeah, and those moments feel really good because of the fact that you twitched and reacted and thought through it all that fast and did it.
I,
That being said,
yeah, it
that being said,
it doesn't happen
I,
in real life, and it's complete
right,
BS.
exactly, exactly.
You know,
It's total BS
this
unless
reminds
you,
me of the time
are
we were
the.
playing Halo 2, and you threw the stupid sticky grenade through this little tiny crack in a pillar, and hit the guy
That
in
was
the
Halo
face.
3.
Oh,
That's
I'm
Halo
sorry,
3.
Halo 3, and you hit the guy in the face mask with it. It was complete BS, and I hated you forever.
That got a lot of views on Bungie.
I know it was dumb.
It's probably one of the stupidest sticks I've ever had.
Yeah,
But that was my thing, man. I got ridiculous sticks. That was my calling card in
couldn't hit
Halo.
anything else with anything else, but sticky grenades. Oh yeah.
Right. Well, rockets and sticky grenades were my fortes.
That's
So
not a good forte to have, considering 90% of the game is like far distance.
I know.
Oh
I
man.
like to make things explode. What can I say?
Well, and in general though, I've never been a fan of Twitch first-person shooters. So every time they're like, "Oh, this is not a Twitch person shooter," and this is why I get a little happy inside.
Yeah.
I enjoy those much more. We actually have to have a good, solid plan or tactics rather than just I jump into the middle of a room, spin around in a circle, and just keep shooting, and all of a sudden I'm okay.
Right. No, I do like it. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to require much more tactical gameplay. Like you're not just going to be able to sprint around all the time. You're going to have to move slowly together as a team, cover your corners, actually, implement actual military tactics and like breaching rooms and that kind of thing. So I do like it, and I am looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, and another thing we were going to talk about actually was our org member and friend Dr. Insaniac, who we've mentioned a couple of times. He's been playing the Binding of Isaac, which is a weird old school style Zelda.
Like Zelda meets Smash TV.
Yeah, it's
Except it's all fucked up.
Yeah, I don't like it. It would give me nightmares if I played that all the time. It's just way messed up. But he streams it all the time, so feel free to check that out. You can
Yeah.
we follow him on both of our Twitches if you want to find him
Well,
that
we'll
way,
we'll
or you
link
can
him
look
in
him
the
up.
description. We'll link
That
him in the
works.
description.
Yep, we'll do that. And then another thing that was recently released, there was a new Pixar movie. Actually, no, it was a new game trailer from Blizzard called Overwatch, which looks exactly like a Pixar movie.
Right.
Um, but it looks really cool, I have to say. The gameplay is apparently a complete ripoff of Team Fortress and Archblade,
Yeah.
but that's not
Well,
necessarily a bad thing considering Archblade doesn't exist anymore. And
well,
Team,
a lot
well,
of people,
yeah,
I'm assuming nobody that's listening to this has actually played or knows what Archblade is. And if you do, I want you to post in the comments because I want to
yeah.
talk to you.
We're like
That being said,
somebody else who played Archblade for the week it was out.
right.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. But that being said, for people who don't know, Archblade was like uh, a beat 'em up, three-dimensional MOBA game. It's really hard to describe. So basically, you had
So
characters, you had moves, just like a fighting game,
yeah,
like a three-dimensional fighting game, kind of like I don't know, a Tekken or something like that. Is Tekken even
Jedi
three-dimensional?
Academy.
Yeah, yeah, that kind
You
of thing.
got Ninja Gaiden. The newer Ninja Gaidens are kind of like that too.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of thing. You had a limited amount of combos and moves you could do. You had supers and specials and all that stuff. And it was a MOBA where you had bases to capture
Yeah.
and lanes to control and that kind of thing. It was actually an excellent game, a
Well,
lot of fun.
oh yeah, we enjoyed it thoroughly, but then they like decided to no longer support the game and kill it like a couple of weeks after they came out with it, which was
Yeah, it was
crazy.
really, yeah, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
That game, I'm really still sad to this
Well,
day about
and
that.
literally Overwatch, like looking at the gameplay, the controls, and all that, I'm like, oh, this is Archblade. That character is almost identical to that Archblade character, and so
Yeah,
forth. So,
right. I swear to God, they had to pull some people from the studio that made
like
Archblade
behind
to
the
make
scenes,
Overwatch.
like maybe
Right.
that's why Archblade died. Blizzard's like, dude, we wanted to come out with that game. Just go away. And they're like, all right, Blizzard, if you say so.
That could be. I mean, it was a Korean studio, and obviously Blizzard has a massive presence in Korea, so
Yeah, I don't.
they could have pulled some developers out of there.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll have to investigate.
yeah. Well, and then also Dr. Insaniac and I recently picked up and played a little bit of Zombies, Monsters, Robots, which, in keeping with like our FPS centric theme today, it's an FPS game where you've got like survival modes, versus modes, etc. But instead of like, the standard FPS bad guys that you fight, like in Call of Duty, you fight terrorists or whatever, you have zombies, you have monsters, you have robots, you have dinosaurs, all this random stuff. And it's ridiculous and silly, and it's kind of got that same attitude that you find in like Borderlands, where like they're intentionally being over the top and ridiculous.
Right.
Because it's a game called Zombies, Monsters, Robots. It was
Well, I'm looking forward to trying it.
pretty solid mechanically, I have to say. And it's got some nice cover mechanics to it, etc. Um, Decent, control scheme. The one thing I don't like about it, which is a concern I have, game back to Star Citizen, is it almost feels play to win, or pay to win rather, where
Yeah.
you've definitely got better gear that you can buy, and you can earn it through the game like you can with League and stuff like that, but there's nothing to stop somebody from dropping $100 and all of a sudden having great equipment, day one too.
Now, does it have PvP as well as PvE?
Yep, and you can do
Okay.
like a straight up, Call of Duty style versus match if you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
It, I mean, I've only played a little bit, but I definitely enjoyed the little bit I played. But it definitely seems like one of those games, the more people you have playing it with you, the more fun you'll have.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to give it a go. Maybe we'll stream it.
Yeah.
People should check us out.
We got so much stuff to stream. We gotta do Magica, we gotta do that.
Yeah, I wish we could get Baldur's Gate to work on stream. That'd be
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Listening to me bitch about how much I hate the
I love
I don't hate the game. I like the
the
game,
one
but
time
I
we
just
played Baldur's Gate, background for people, like you're supposed to control multiple characters. This guy is like, I'm only gonna control one character, you control the other five. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious right now? But
yup.
you know what? He knows my personality and knows I love doing that crap too, even though it is really hard to control five people. But it's still fun.
Yeah, well, I'm just so like over my head trying to control just myself. I'm just like, you know what? I'm out. Mike can
About
do
you
this.
do it. I hate you so much sometimes.
Uh,
Well, and then in movie news, we have the title of the next generations of Star Wars first movie, which is The Force Awakens. Like I tried to make it sound
that's
dramatic, but
fine.
it's such a stupid title. I'm
It's
sorry.
horrible. Even even oh my god, like people are making fun of it all over the place.
Yeah.
It's bad. Nobody likes it. It's just
Well, it's like so
no.
so I'm trying to like infer some element of plot to that title because you can always infer some element of plot to a Star Wars title. Some more obvious than another, like Attack of the Clones, or Return of the Jedi, or Revenge of the Sith. You know, those are a little more obvious. But like The Force Awakens to me is like A New Hope. Maybe there's like Skywalker's kid, but it's probably not Ben Skywalker for those that know the expanded universe. It's probably some other random kid, probably like learning to become a Jedi is what I'm guesstimating. I have no idea.
Right. Well, I actually did watch some of Star Wars Rebels, the computer animated series that's on Disney XD
Wait,
last week.
nerd. I
Nerd.
also watched it, so
I know, and I didn't really care for it too much.
it's
There were
not.
a couple really good episodes,
It's
but
very. Uh, I don't know.
right, there's
It's
too much blah.
it's very Disney.
Yep,
It's
that
not
bothers me.
Pixar. It's Disney, and I think people know
Exactly.
what I mean by that when I say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, even when you have Mark Hamill making fun of the title of this new movie,
Did he? That's awesome.
yeah, he did. He did.
Uh,
You know, it's not good. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that gets changed, but we'll see.
well, that's the thing is they kind of always change it before it comes out and save themselves from ridiculousness. I think like Return of the Jedi was Revenge of the Jedi until like a month
Yep.
before it came out or something too. So there's
Yep.
precedent for them changing titles.
Well, and that makes sense because Revenge of the Jedi don't believe in revenge. Like that's
Yeah,
pretty
it
much like
and that's exactly why they changed it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. So speaking of Pixar, I did go out and see Big Hero 6
That
this weekend.
like that I saw a trailer for Forever Go when I was in theaters and it looked like a typical Pixar movie and that's not a bad thing by any
Right.
stretch. Which
It was very Pixar.
yeah.
It tried to blend like Japanese culture with American culture. So like the city that they're in is San Fran, Tokyo.
Okay. All right.
And the cities, the architecture kind of blends both those ideas, and the city layout kind of blends both those ideas, and it takes place sometime in the future. So the whole premise is this super genius like 13-year-old kid is winning all these like robot fights a la BattleBots,
Okay.
like where you have, he brings his robot to these underground tournaments, which are supposed to be illegal, and he's winning all these tournaments and making a ton of money.
Like chainsaw
Um,
hands and laser eyes, etc.
Actually, his design is pretty cool.
Oh, really?
I don't want to give it away,
All right.
but yeah, it's actually pretty cool the way he goes about it, which plays later into some of the plot stuff that
Okay.
unfolds later, which is really well tied together. But then him and he has a brother, an older brother, who's very, very smart as well, but not nearly as smart as him,
Hmm.
who does robotics at like a prestigious robotic university. And it's about, the kid getting into robotics as like a professional thing, and then a bad guy shows up and steals this kid's technology, and so this kid has to find ways to beat,
His own tech.
his own tech. Yeah, and so he has this big marshmallow bot, which is actually supposed to be a healthcare bot
Oh
originally. Like
God.
it's supposed to like diagnose people and help them and stuff.
Which is
And
the one that's inflatable they show in the trailer with the steam popping out of it or whatever.
yeah,
Got it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. And that bot's pretty hilarious, and the kid's funny too. And it's about him upgrading that bot, giving it some armor and some other things, and they go and fight this bad guy, and it's really good. like 10-year-old me would just be obsessed with robotics if I had seen this movie when I was younger.
Well, and
Um,
29-year-old you is not far behind. Let's be
it's
fair.
kind of true, actually. 29-year-old me now is like, ooh, robotics. Maybe I should start building my own robot. Like,
I'm telling
how do
you,
I do
we
that?
need an R2D2 that shoots beer out of its dome and rolls around and makes beeping noise. Nobody steal this.
I
Anybody? Nobody steal this idea.
Yeah,
I've
we're
had this idea.
copywriting this.
I had this idea when I was 16, and I still haven't done it yet. But don't steal it.
We've copyrighted it right now. We just
Yeah,
did it.
it's out there forever. Well, and then
Yeah.
in manga news, and I know how much everybody likes it when I talk about manga, Naruto's finally done. It died.
Woo.
It's over. Don't have to keep reading it. 15 years gone. Finito. Finale. Whatever. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It was
Yeah.
it got to the point where I just stopped caring. I only kept reading because I read it for so long.
Right. No,
So
I don't blame you. I That's a long time for anything to go on for any
yeah,
series. I mean, I can't watch The Simpsons anymore
yeah,
solely
I
for that
can't
reason.
either.
It's just too much.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I stopped caring about that 10 years ago, pretty much
Yep.
too. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Well, and then in just awesome in general news, unless you've been living under a rock or staring at Kim Kardashian's backside, we had a couple of baller space news coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. We frickin' landed on a comet. We're That's pretty insane. A
That
10-year mission.
which is pretty cool because, in 50 years when none of our water is drinkable, we're going to need to start siphoning off of comets, so it's good to know it's possible.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it's just incredible. We launched this mission 10 years ago. This satellite had to go through, I think it was 5 gravity assisted, uh, whatever they call it. Where it
Slingshots.
swings. Yeah, slingshot. Thank you.
Yep.
Where it swings by a planet, 3 by Earth, 1 by Mars, and it might have even been 4 by Earth. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it did a bunch of those complicated maneuvers, and then caught up with this.
Wait, you're saying it
Uh,
listed lazily to the left?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It just kind of kept going left, and eventually it caught up
man, he knows some
with the
maneuvers.
with the comet. Yeah, it's like we put a NASCAR pilot's brain in
Oh,
this satellite and sent it out
thank
there.
God
And
we didn't need to turn right at any point.
exactly.
That would have been
But
some crazy maneuvers that I don't know if we're capable
yeah,
of that.
no, I don't think we can handle that yet. But yeah, so it's been out there for 10 years. It was asleep basically for 2.5 years while it just drifted and caught up with the comet.
Hmm.
Caught up with the comet a couple months ago, got into orbit around the comet, and then we sent down the lander today. It successfully landed. There were a few hiccups. Um, there were supposed to be harpoons that fired down into the comet
To
as it was
anchor
coming
it.
down. Yeah, but those didn't fire.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, and the maneuvering jets that were supposed to soften its landing didn't work. But
Ooh.
that being said, from the telemetry data they got, it looks like the lander landed, bounced a little, spun a little, then landed again, and then there are screws attached to its feet
Hmm.
that drilled down, and it sounds like 2 of the 3 screws were able to implant themselves successfully into
Yes.
the comet. So we'll know more tomorrow. It's because of, I think it's going behind the sun again or something, so we're not going to be able to have radio contact with it until tomorrow. So we'll know more then.
So I wonder
But
what's the craziest thing that could come over radio contact tomorrow morning. That would be awesome. Like all of a sudden an alien spaceship.
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that would be about as crazy as you could get.
I can't think
That's
of anything crazier.
I mean, this thing's far enough away that it takes 30 minutes for signals to reach it. So
Jeez,
it's millions of miles away. So
dang.
pretty incredible.
Well,
I was watching it live and I was very excited.
that hopefully we can do that in Star Citizen. We'll spend 3 years, slingshotting around planets to,
Yeah, just get out to the jump point.
the Star Citizen community totally strikes me as having the patience for that type of gameplay, and I think it will be okay.
It's a stretch goal.
Yeah, it's a stretch goal. Stretch goal when we hit 100 million. Slingshot
Yeah,
onto a comet.
yeah.
Oh God. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Flight Deck, and we'll see you guys in the verse.
Peace.